In the quiet embrace of the dark room, Jungkook finds himself suspended in a fragile moment of vulnerability. Nick's steady heartbeat thrums against his back, an odd juxtaposition to the disarray in his own chest. It's not just the remnants of guilt or the echoes of his past with Taehyung. It's the realization that he's standing at a crossroads, uncertain of where his heart truly lies. He swallows hard, trying to dispel the tightness in his throat. The familiar scent of Nick surrounds him, comforting yet foreign, as though it's a thin veil that cannot quite replace the scent of safety he once knew with Taehyung. He presses his forehead against Nick's collarbone, letting his eyes drift shut. "Tell me what's on your mind," Nick whispers, his voice a gentle plea in the quiet. Jungkook opens his mouth to respond but hesitates. It's not fair to burden Nick with the truth, not when he's been so patient, so understanding. But the lie tastes bitter on his tongue, refusing to be swallowed down. "It's just," he finally breathes out, voice wavering. "I thought I was ready to move on, to be with someone new. But every time I try, it feels like I'm betraying him." The words hang in the air, a raw confession that leaves him feeling exposed. He waits for the disappointment, the frustration that he's sure will follow. Instead, Nick's grip tightens, a comforting squeeze that melts a bit of the icy guilt coiled around his heart. "I get it," Nick murmurs, surprising him with the softness in his voice. "You don't need to explain yourself. Love doesn't just disappear because we want it to." Tears prick at the corners of Jungkook's eyes, unbidden. He lets out a shaky breath, nodding even though he knows Nick can't see it in the darkness. "I'm sorry," he whispers, the apology heavy with more than just words. "You don't have to be sorry for loving someone," Nick replies. He shifts, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of Jungkook's head. "But you also deserve to figure out what you need without feeling guilty for it." The simplicity of his words strikes a chord deep within Jungkook, and he feels something crack open in his chest, a small space that's been locked tight, now flooded with a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he can give himself the time to heal without rushing into something new. Maybe he can allow himself to grieve what he's lost without the constant pressure to replace it. For now, he lets himself sink into Nick's embrace, grounding himself in the steady, comforting warmth. The future feels uncertain, a nebulous haze he can't quite see through. But for this moment, wrapped up in the safety of understanding arms, he allows himself the luxury of not having all the answers. "Thank you," Jungkook whispers, his voice barely more than a breath. Nick hums softly, his thumb tracing soothing circles against Jungkook's back. "Always, babe. I'm not going anywhere." The promise lingers in the air between them, gentle and unspoken, and for the first time in what feels like ages, Jungkook lets himself believe in the possibility of something new, something that doesn't erase the past, but maybe, just maybe, helps him find his way forward. The lie hangs in the air like a fragile thread, and Jungkook feels it twist tightly around his heart. He can sense the hesitation in Nick, a brief flicker of doubt before he replaces it with a tender smile. It's almost too easy to weave this story, to wrap himself in a comfortable fiction rather than face the raw truth of his emotions. The truth would be messy, tangled with names he cannot speak and feelings he cannot fully understand. It's safer this way, easier. Nick's hands, warm and gentle, come up to cradle Jungkook's face. "Thank you for telling me," he murmurs, pressing to Jungkook's forehead. "I knew it must have been hard to admit. I just want to make sure you're okay, that you feel comfortable." Jungkook forces a smile, nodding even though he can't bring himself to look Nick in the eyes. "Yeah, I do. I'm okay." The relief on Nick's face is palpable. He pulls Jungkook closer, settling them back into the bed, the room enveloping them in a cocoon of darkness. There's a tender silence, filled only by the sounds of their breathing, as Nick's fingers continue to trace slow, soothing patterns on Jungkook's back. "I'm really glad you told me," Nick says softly, breaking the silence. "I want this to be good for you, Jungkook. I don't want you to feel rushed or pressured. I just want to be here, with you." The sincerity in Nick's voice brings a sting of guilt to Jungkook's chest, sharper now than before. He's lying to protect himself, to protect this fragile thing between them that feels like it could shatter under the weight of the truth. He's hiding the ghost of a past that still lingers, a name that slips unspoken between his lips even now. And yet, for a moment, he allows himself to believe in the lie. To believe that maybe he could have this gentleness, this patient understanding, without the shadows of Taehyung's voice whispering in the back of his mind. Jungkook lets out a slow, shuddering breath. "Thank you," he whispers, pressing closer to Nick, seeking comfort in his warmth. He wants to mean it, wants to feel the gratitude deep in his bones rather than the hollow echo of a wish he's made countless times before. "You deserve to have something special," Nick murmurs, his lips brushing against Jungkook's hair. "And I want to be that for you, if you'll let me." The words are a promise, a gentle plea wrapped in hope. Jungkook squeezes his eyes shut, the pressure of tears building behind his eyelids. He doesn't know how to respond, caught between the yearning to say yes and the bitter taste of the truth he's buried deep. "I want that too," Jungkook lies again, voice barely more than a whisper. Nick's smile is soft, filled with a kind of adoration that makes Jungkook's chest ache. "Then we'll take our time," he says, his voice filled with a quiet certainty. "We don't have to rush anything. I just want you to be happy, Jungkook." In the darkness, Jungkook nods, burying his face into the crook of Nick's neck. He can feel the rapid thrum of Nick's heartbeat, the warmth of his skin, and for a fleeting moment, he lets himself pretend that he's the boy Nick believes him to be, untouched and unburdened by the shadows of his past. But as the silence stretches on, the lie becomes heavier, sinking deep into the marrow of his bones. He knows he's crafted in a web he can't untangle from, one that will only grow more complex the longer he clings to it. For now, though, he lets himself fall into the comfort of Nick's embrace, clinging to the warmth even as the cold tendrils of guilt wrap tighter around his heart. He's not ready to face the truth, not tonight, not when the darkness offers a temporary reprieve from the ghosts that haunt him. The room settles into a hushed quiet once more, and Jungkook breathes out slowly, letting the darkness cloak them in its protective shroud. The room falls quiet after Nick's persistent questioning, leaving only the sound of their breathing filling the silence. Jungkook feels the tension in the air, his nerves on edge. He wants to feel comfortable in Nick's arms, but he can't shake the sense of unease that settled deep in his chest. "Thanks for being so understanding, Nick," Jungkook says, forcing a small smile despite the anxiety gnawing at him. "I really appreciate it. I just need a bit more time." "Okay," Nick nods, his expression softening a bit. He reaches up to gently stroke Jungkook's cheek. "Of course, Jungkook. I get it. We'll take it at your pace. I just want you to feel good, you know? Whenever you're ready, I want it to be special for you." Jungkook breathes a sigh of relief, feeling the pressure lift slightly. He manages a genuine smile this time. That means a lot to me, Nick. Really? Nick's gaze softens further, and he leans in to press a kiss to Jungkook's forehead. I care about you, Jungkook. I want this to be everything you've imagined. So, we'll wait until you're sure, Jungkook nods, grateful for Nick's patience. But even as he settles back into the bed, the sense of guilt lingers. He knows he isn't being entirely truthful. His hesitation isn't just about needing time. It's about the complicated emotions still tied to someone else, someone who hasn't quite let go of him either. Trying to push the thoughts aside, Jungkook closes his eyes, allowing Nick to pull him closer. He wants to believe this could be simple, that he could find comfort in someone new. But deep down, he knows it's not that easy. As they lie together, Nick continues to stroke his back gently, murmuring soft reassurances. Whenever you're ready, he whispers again. We'll make it perfect. Jungkook offers a small nod in response, pretending to drift off to sleep. He feels the warmth of Nick's body next to his, but it does little to soothe the storm of emotions inside him.